Welcome back to Rehabilitation Revelations World. My name's Chase.
And I'm Christopher. Today, look, guys, we have a very important person. I don't know to you, but to us and to the people here, Miss Haley Horne. She is the outreach trainer for Ross say that again?
Recovery Organization
Yes.
Support Specialist.
Yes. Okay. And we're out here at beautiful Oak Mountain. We're thankful this is a beautiful day today. Honestly, we're thankful for all these people here to join us. I know you can't see behind the camera, but we can. But it's definitely a blessing for me, and I know Chase, to really get here, to sit in a beautiful place like this, to have a conversation, sit down with somebody. So thanks for being on today. We really appreciate that. So kind of just give us your background, what you did, what you're doing, where you're going.
My name is Haley Horne. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm very grateful to be here today. Usually when I share my story, it's in a room full of people. I've never done this outside, so I really like the environment today.
Yeah.
So I am a person with substance use disorder that's in remission, and I do suffer with mental illness as well. So I had a lot of trauma growing up as a child, and I think that played a huge factor in my story, for sure. I took my first drink at 6 years old. Like, I always wanted to be a part of. Like, that was what I sought for and searched for, was to be a part of. I always felt like I was alone and isolated. So I was at a party in Miami at my aunt's. And
At 6 years old?
Yes, 6 years old. And had a glass of champagne. And I felt like I was part of the adults. And throughout my whole story, that's what you'll hear is me trying to feel a part of. And I never did feel a part of until I got into recovery. And I feel a part of the recovery community now. So I didn't drink again until I was 14 years old. And I look back and I could tell automatically that I had a problem. Next time I drank at 14 years old, I drank until blackout. I could not stop. And as the years progressed, like, I slowly moved to other things. At 15, I started smoking crack cocaine. Like, whatever I had to do, and it's crazy because I look back and I didn't have to do that to fit in. But in my mind, I had to do that to fit in because that's what the people around me were doing. So whatever anybody around me was doing, that's what I was doing. Trying to be a part of, to feel accepted, because I always felt rejected. I always felt a lot of rejection. And also to mask up that trauma because I didn't want to have to feel it. The trauma I experienced as a child. So, let's see, by the time I was 16, I was going to the bars on the weekends. And then it turned into every night I was drinking. I hid everything for a while. I made good grades. I was on the dance line at school. But when I was 17 years old, my dad found out. And I got kicked off the dance line. So that really had an impact because for a while, dance was my outlet. That was an outlet for me, until I found other substances. So by the time I graduated high school, relationships play a huge role in my story. There's a bug.
Yeah.
Relationships play a huge role in my story as well. Because I always sought to fill some type of hole that was inside of me. If not with substances, with people. Just anything to make me feel whole because I didn't feel whole.
People pleasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I also, my dad was like my savior. He would come in and save the day, which that comes up later in my story. But I wasn't really people pleasing to him. I would try to, but obviously he didn't want me using substances.
Of course.
That wasn't really people pleasing. But in other aspects, it was. Because I tried to make him happy all the time. I pretty much lived to make my dad happy, except for the aspect of substances. So I didn't go directly into college. The first semester after high school, I took off and just partied because I thought that was what was cool and what I wanted to do. Anything my dad told me not to do, I did the complete opposite of it because I thought in my mind at the time, he just doesn't want me to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I told myself. Really, he was trying to save me from what was going to happen to me on down the road.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting back in college, and I stayed in college throughout my whole use, because in my mind I thought if I'm enrolled taking at least one college class, I'm not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my justification to keep doing the things I was doing. But at 19, I got into a pretty bad domestic violence situation with my partner at the time. And I would end up in the hospital, but I would keep running back because that was the form of love that I had grown to know.
Of course.
Like, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again. I love you. Please come back. So I went through that for a couple of years, and everything that I said I would never do, I ended up doing. I said I would never use a needle. I ended up using a needle. And from that relationship, I moved into another relationship, you know, always trying to fill the void that was inside of me with substances and people.
Mm.
And I soon found methamphetamines and then heroin. And I had multiple overdoses. Like, I was just trying to completely numb everything out to the point that I didn't have to feel.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care to even be alive anymore. In October of 2012, the guy that I was dating overdosed and passed away. And that was the first time something in me changed. And I kind of wanted to do better. So I ended up getting put on medically assisted recovery. And I did good for a period of time. I moved down to Auburn. And went to Auburn University. I did aerospace engineering. Like, I was doing good. But wherever I go, there I go. I started going to the bars on the weekends. Then it was every night again. Then I'm passing my homework out the door at 6 o'clock in the morning because I've been up all night at the bar and can't make it to class. So eventually I had to leave school in my senior year. And when I came back, I lived in Oxford and Anniston area. That's where I'm from. When I moved back there, I took right back off into what I was doing before. And my dad found out. He was always the type to give me an ultimatum. You can either go to jail or you can go to rehab. So I'm always like, sign me up for rehab.
Yeah.
I do not want to go to jail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in 2015, I went to a recovery house, but I still wasn't quite ready. Like, I just wanted God to do it for me and me not have to do anything or put any work in. But after a month, I ended up leaving that place. And about a month later, July 31st of 2015, I got the call that my dad had passed away.
Mm.
And something in me changed that day. It was like a piece of my heart was ripped out. And everything that I had done to my dad, because I loved my dad, but when I was withdrawing off of substances or couldn't get my way or hurting really bad, like, I would freak out and lash out, knock holes in the walls, hit my dad, steal his car, steal money, like whatever I had to do, I didn't care. And that day when he passed, everything hit me. All the things that I had done to him. And I could not handle the guilt and the shame that I felt from that. So everything after that for a couple of months is kind of like a haze. I know I was living, they were going to have to sell his house. I was living in the basement, the bottom part of the house, and I was using drugs, selling drugs to support my habit, and I wouldn't even get out of the bed. I would go to the restroom and go back to the bed. So I don't know how long I didn't eat for, but when my brother came to move everything out of my dad's house to sell it, I was in the bed, and I weighed 89 pounds. I had lost all muscle mass because I was just laying there like I didn't care anymore. I had lost all hope. But they took me to my mom's house, and I started to eat again. But I ended up getting in an argument with her and a fight, and I left and didn't have anywhere to go. Shortly after that, I totaled my car out. That school that I was still in, dropped out of that. I had managed to get a job, lost that because I didn't have a vehicle to get there. Like slowly, I'm losing everything. And my dad was always there to help me, you know, to make sure that I was okay. And nobody was there to do that anymore. So I hit bottoms I didn't even know existed. I started moving from dope house to dope house, and nobody wanted me to come in their house at one point. So I ended up unhoused in the streets of Anniston. And I always try to remember this, how cold it was that winter. 23 degrees outside, walking into the Motel 6 laundry room to warm up until they kicked me out of there, and just trying to go to different places to warm up. I also did a lot of things that I'm not very proud of today, but I know it's a part of who I am today, and I can use that as my lived experience to help other people. I went back to that recovery house that I went to before a couple more times. I shuffled through there. But in 2018, May the 9th of 2018 was my birthday. And nobody called me that day to say happy birthday. Nobody cared. I was completely isolated. But I had done that. You know, I had ruined every relationship that I had with anybody in my life.
And you're on the streets at this time, right?
At this time, I'd actually gotten my inheritance. And I blew all that in 3 months. So then I felt shame from that and guilt from that. Like, how could I do that to my dad, everything that he worked hard for? But I was held in bondage to the substances. I had rented a house for 6 months with some of that money so I could at least have a place to stay, but I was living there with no power, no water.
Yeah.
You know, so, but in my mind, you know, I have a house.
Yeah.
So only for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I cried out on my birthday to God, and I said, I cannot do this anymore. Please help me. And the next day I got arrested. As I was sitting in the Calhoun County jail, the fog started to lift. When they put those handcuffs on me, I felt the weight slipped off my shoulders. I had been fighting for so long, I was tired. I was ready to do something different. All the experiences that I had been through, those don't define me as a person today. Who I am now is a person in recovery. But my lived experience does help me with other people. I sat in that jail, and I knew I wanted something different. A woman came to visit me and asked me if I wanted to do drug court. I said, yes, sign me up for it. Everybody was saying, oh, I'm setting you up for failure. And I was like, no, I want all the accountability. I want to do the longest program I can. Like, I want everything. A recovery house, a local recovery house, Oxford Outreach came and asked me if I wanted to come there. And I said, yes. I was super happy because I was so tired of living the way that I was living. And willing to do whatever it took. I was ready to go to any lengths that it took. So I went to that recovery house, and while I was there over those 12 months, I was actually working on myself for the first time. I had kind of an epiphany that God wasn't going to just do it for me and me keep my old behaviors and act the same way. Like, I had to put work into it. So I put everything that I had into that, and something in me changed. I stayed that full year, and I actually wanted to stay longer. So I went to a transitional house for another year. And it's crazy. I was always hit the ground running. But this time I changed everything about myself. But that's what it took for me. You know, I had to change my thought process, my behaviors, everything about the way that I think. But I had wanted, like, if I would have, when I look back, what I wanted was to just be in recovery, to not use substances. I had no idea what that looked like, but I would have sold myself short because of everything that I have been able to do today. I actually went back to school at UAB and got a degree in social work.
Awesome.
Like I never would have thought I could do that. I couldn't speak full sentences when I got into that recovery house. It was a process. They honestly thought they wouldn't be able to help me because I was outside crying 10 times a day. Because I was feeling all these emotions, shame, guilt, finally grieving my dad after 3 years. And they'd be like, "Oh, there's Haley outside on the porch crying again. What's she crying about? Who knows?" Because I just couldn't handle it, but I finally got to where I could handle the emotions and everything and work through all the things that had happened in my life. But that was what it took for me. And now I get to work as a certified recovery support specialist with Ross. I was an outreach worker, which outreach is my passion. I love being out in the community working with people. And now I'm an outreach trainer, so I get to train the new employees and also go with the employees that we have and look at their strengths and opportunities and see what we can do to just have the best outreach staff.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
that's the story.
Well, look, I know you said something earlier. You said you also struggle with mental illness.
Yes.
I don't know if you're comfortable with sharing this, but what exactly do you struggle with in that aspect?
So, I had diagnosis previously, but getting into recovery, I didn't know if it was substance related or what it was, because I would always go to the doctor on substances looking for something else. So, I mean, one time I was even diagnosed as a person with paranoid schizophrenia, but I had been up for 2 weeks.
Yeah, of course.
So there was not really any telling what was correct at that point in time, because I wouldn't say that I was using substances. But about 2 or 3 years into my recovery, when I was in the process of buying a house, I was already anxious, but I started getting an overwhelming amount of anxiety to the point to where I couldn't function. So I have generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, and mood disorder. And all these I did not find out until being a couple years in recovery. And I also got to a point, which I have just started sharing this recently with people, because I feel like it's, you need to be open and honest, because so many times people will share their stories and be like, everything's good and great today. It's perfect. It's not perfect. Life still happens. That last semester of school, I was working 40 hours a week with Ross and 30 to 35 hours a week, my internship with Anniston Fellowship House. And the woman that owned that recovery house had passed away. And she was a huge part of my recovery. And that same week that she passed away, the person that I had been with for 3 years left. And it was just more than I could handle. And I was battling thoughts of suicide. And that's a scary place to be in.
Yes, it is.
5.5 years in recovery.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to do something. And that's how I am today. I'm solution-based, And I know the option for me today, like, I do not want to use substances, so that's the other option on the table if I don't do something about it. So I quickly got into a solution, contacted people in my recovery network, met with my doctor, changed some of my medications, did everything that I needed to do to get back from that. And now I'm at a place in my recovery where I'm honestly the happiest I've been in my recovery so far in the 6 years. I have the most peace that I've had, but it's because I put the action in once again, and I still have to do that every single day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a battle. I mean, I know we talk about it all the time. It's really people that, I don't want to say don't understand, but they're like, oh, you're better now. It's like, no, just because I went to a program for 6 months and it's we're still going through it. You know, we graduate here soon, so it's like you have to put the work in every day. It's not oh, you're just magically good.
Yeah.
And I think people forget about that. It's like, oh, well, I did this, I went here, so now I don't have to do anything. No, you have to put in the work. Because, I mean, I know to this day I still have thoughts, you know, I mean, like of drinking and things like that. But I have to tell myself, or I have different ways that I go. Like now, if I have a thought, I literally, instead of going to the gas station, going to the beer aisle and grabbing beer, I literally go grab a candy bar now.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of put two and two. So now I go do something different. Not going to the gas station initially and buying something, but kind of. So I changed my way of doing something. So if I ever get a thought, well, I kind of do the direct thing, but I just go to a different aisle and I buy something. And it just helps me in that reality. And then, you know, eat that and I'll go on with my day. And it's helped me in a step, but that's just like one of my things I do, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I still do different things. Like I have to work through my mind, my mental, you know, like it's hard. It really is. So
I know in my life, though, and you said something good, Haley, is that it's hard. It's the hardest thing. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do because innately, if I just took, say, fentanyl, alcohol, gambling, whatever it was, out of my life, it's not like I'm going to the doctor and they're prescribing me medicine and in 3 days you're better. You know, it's something that I have to put in every single day, and it's work. And I don't have necessarily that crutch, if you want to call it, of a substance to numb those feelings. Like I have to deal with it. And you said now, like you're solution based. So instead of like me drinking, me using is not an option. Okay. It can't be an option. And if I don't confront these things, because look, at the end of the day, it's still life.
Yeah.
People are going to die. People are going to get sick. You're going to get sick. Bad things are going to happen to you. I mean, that's just the end of the day. And by me using these substances innately is only going to exacerbate the problem.
yeah, kill you faster.
Yeah. And but I'm just when you strip all that away, and then like you were saying, everything's dumped on you, and you're feeling all these things you hadn't felt in years. Let's say you're grieving your father after 3 years, and all these feelings start rushing back. You know, because maybe it might not be the first 6 months, the year, or 3 years into it. Then you start feeling things that are from the past that you know they're now starting to come up, and it's helped me to know that look, we're stronger than we think we are. We're more resilient than we think we are. We're smarter than we think we are. And we can get through these things just as well, even though it's uncomfortable and it sucks. It's miserable at times. But we can still get to that other side through that without just abandoning, just to numb myself. I know I'm speaking, I cannot speak for y'all, but for myself on that. And really, when you come out, I know for myself, from coming out on that other side, it's you have a sense of like, I don't know if pride's the word, but like hey, you know what, I'm better now. As a person, as a father, as a friend, as just a human being now, I'm better because I focus my thoughts and my energy on this, and I got to this other side.
Yeah.
You know, and now you can empathize with people better. You can understand people better. You can, you know, just all around, it makes me better as an individual to face those things. Because, you know, nobody understands divorce until you go through a divorce. Nobody understands addiction until you go through addiction. And it's just one of those things, I can't understand how you thought about killing yourself.
Yeah. Well,
like,
you don't know where I was.
You don't know where I was, buddy.
And you're right, that darkness, man. It's like,
you don't know where I was. And when you've been there, it's like, I think we said this on the last one. When somebody says they're a drug addict or they're alcoholic, you can talk to me, but you don't have to say nothing else.
Yeah.
I know. I understand where you've been.
But we're here to talk if you ever want.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that, but you don't have to sit here and explain anything. To me, you don't. You might feel like that to everybody else, but it's just, I've been to those dark places.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I still, look, guys, I still go there.
Yeah, I do too.
It's still there at the time.
I have to find different ways to like get my mindset off that. So it's like going to the gas station and grabbing a candy bar or something. It's just something I do now, and it like for some reason it helps me. It sounds the craziest thing ever, but it does. It's like I'll just randomly leave, and it's like, so where'd you go? I'm like, go grab some sweets, like why? It's like, well, I don't have to explain, like you said.
It's like creating new habits,
Right.
using positive self-talk, all these. It's like you gather these tools that help you every single day.
Yeah.
So, and it's continuing to use them every day as well.
Yeah, and having good people.
Yeah, having people to sit down and honestly kind of you can relate to them, where you've been. But I wanted to ask you this, as we're kind of, I guess, closing things up. I understand that you're kind of far in your recovery right now, but what has been the most instrumental things in your life and in your walk that has helped you maintain not only that thought process of being in recovery, but when things do get tough, what is your go-to thing?
My go-to, definitely the people around me. I have a huge recovery community. There's like a couple of people that are very close to me. But it's being able to call somebody that is there no matter what.
Yeah. There I am.
Not the kind of person from before where it's what can I get from you? What can you get from me? It's just people that genuinely care, like actual love.
Just to talk.
Yes, having those people around me.
Yeah. And how do you stay engaged? I guess I know these people necessarily people are around you, but you can have the best people around if you don't stay necessarily engaged. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you just talk or you just reach out? How do you go about doing that?
We actually created a recovery meeting. It started at my house a couple of years ago, and it's moved to one of my friends' houses. But on Tuesday nights, we go over there. We eat dinner, play card games, have a recovery meeting, my little group of people. So that's one way. And then we try to plan stuff, like different activities and stuff. So that's how we try to keep connected. So, but always once a week for that recovery meeting.
Yeah, so. That's awesome.
It is. And look, this just came up on my mind. So I know you talk about like on the clinical side of things, what you do in like a relationship. But has like on the spiritual side of things, I know you mentioned this, and this is the reason I bring it up, is that you mentioned God a couple of times. Has God helped you maintain your sobriety, or has he not? Has it helped? Or anybody out there that might be an atheist that might not say, hey, that's hogwash. Has that on the spiritual, how important has that been to you on your recovery?
So God, which I say my higher power to be all-inclusive for anybody watching.
Right.
So with him, he has helped me. Yeah. I mean, he's the one. He sat me down in that jail. He saved my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that. Like everything that I learned, I continue to build this relationship with my higher power. Every single day. Like everything I learned to do in the recovery house, I still do today. When I wake up in the mornings, I roll out of my bed and I hit my knees. And I pray for him to keep me in his will for the day. Yep. I do meditation in the mornings, to start my day on the right note. I go throughout the day trying to be consciously aware of my thoughts. Where is my thought process going? Am I being selfish right now? Am I acting out in fear? What am I doing? Yeah. And at night, I pray as well and thank him for keeping me sober for that day.
Yeah.
But I try to stay active and working aside from my job with other people in recovery through the pathway that I work. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you want to add, Haley?
I don't think so.
Anything you want to plug? You want to talk about? You want to plug Ross? You want to plug anything?
Yes, I do want to talk about Ross some. I know Nikki had previously on hers talked about Ross. So Ross is amazing. I have never worked for an organization as amazing as Ross that actually cares not only about the peers but about their employees as well. So at Ross Recovery Organization of Support Specialists, what we do is collaborate and empower individuals seeking recovery. There's many different programs. There's the outreach program. That's the boots on the ground in the communities, working with those people for whatever they need, meeting them where they're at. If they just want to try outpatient and don't know about inpatient, we'll work with them on that.
Is it just for substance use, or is it for any type of mental illness, or just help in general?
You have to have a primary substance use.
Okay.
But they can have mental illness as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can give resources for that. But if it's just mental illness, then no, they have to have a primary substance use. And with that, just helping them on their recovery journey, get started on that. And say if somebody gets out of treatment, we have the aftercare program. And that's for when somebody gets out of inpatient treatment. The aftercare worker will work with them for the next 2 months or so on anything they need for afterwards, like housing, employment, just getting them started with all that.
Like legal? What about legal? On the legal side, they got some legal things hanging over them. Do you have anything with that?
So they can help them in that aspect, like if the letter needs to be written, or like usually when they get out of treatment, they'll have like a completion certificate. But we also have BJA, that's like criminal justice, where they go into the jails, and you can get ordered to Ross through probation or by your judge. There's a special women's program. We also have the Safe Care program, and those are for any woman that is pregnant or postpartum with Safe Care up to 3 years in age. And yes. So there's those programs that help them. And if somebody has DHR involvement, Safe Care, they try to intervene before DHR. But if there is DHR involvement, they will advocate for that person and work on a safety plan with them. So, and we also have the 24/7 helpline, and that number is 844-307-1760.
Say that one more time.
844-307-1760.
Okay.
So.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
You got anything else, Chase?
Yeah, no, just kind of hit everything on point, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was good, for real.
Yeah.
We always say that all the time, but aren't we? I mean,
that's
awesome.
Everybody does
Really.
great, yeah.
It is, man. We just appreciate you, coming on and sharing that, being vulnerable, and honestly just telling where you're at and where you've been and where you're going, because I think a lot of people out there do need to hear it, besides that. But if you don't have anything else, you're good?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hey, everybody out there, hey, please show our girl Haley some love, all right? Like and subscribe, or don't. I really don't care, but just show her some love, okay? All right. Thank y'all. Love y'all. See you, dude.